In this session, we're going to talk about how to take your master format database, divisions 1 through 16 or 1 through 48, depending on what era of number scheme you're using, and be able to actually utilize that same database and also look at it in uniformat order. So that way you can actually look at it, a little bit different. So that way I don't have to have two separate databases or anything of that nature. So it seems like more and more people are looking at uniformat when they're doing BIM and some of those type of things. Seem like they have some of the different coding associated with uniformat on it. And it seems like some people like to do design build, like to utilize this for how they like to review estimates with their clients. So this is kind of an example of uniformat. So basically it's got substructure stuff, shells. So this is what I consider that they consider level 1. Everything's kind of grouped by this, and then they've got a separate tier that can go down, and everything that was an A kind of gets broke off into those separate buckets. And then if I said A10 for foundations, then would go down to level 3 that might get associated with these couple foundations and so forth. So it's just another way of grouping data in your database. So you could do the same concept for maybe you got some scheduling activity codes for how you like to build schedules, or break out an estimate when it's done and so forth. Or maybe you work a lot with a client that they mandate turning in estimates based on their departments or cost codes or something of that nature. So that's what we're going to take a look at. This session is going to be broke off into two separate pieces. The first section we're looking at here right now is the prep work. How do I set up those different uniformat values? How do I code the items in database editor to flag what items are associated with what values and so forth? And then how do I set up my sort? And then the second video is going to be how do we actually utilize that in an estimate? So what's it look like? How do I use that in takeoff? How do I come back and change them around and so forth? So if you're somebody that hasn't done much with WBS codes or maybe uniformat, we don't not familiarized with that and so forth, it might be something that might be of interest to look at video 2 first and then come back and look at video 1 if you want to set it up and so forth and utilize it. So the first thing I want to take a look at then is kind of my structure a little bit. So in my case, I basically want my level 1 to be 1 character. I want my level 2 to basically be like a 3 character. So that way it fits all 3 of their values in the second level. And then it looks like their third level is, what is that? It looks like about 5. So the only reason why I like to put it in at the exact limit is that way if someone typed in something like here, if they typed in 1, 2, 3, or if they typed in something outside the number of characters here, it would at least let them know that they've made an error. So sometimes it's nice to kind of keep them limited to it, though there's no real problem with keeping it at the full size either. So as we get started here, I'm going up to my data for my database. I'm in the Sage Estimating SQL version. I'm going to take a look at WBS. I'm not defining an estimate at this moment. I'm just doing the database. When I add a WBS code stands for Work Breakdown Structure. You've got 40 different ones that you can define. Most these that we utilize today, seems like most clients are using things that are takeoff specific. That means that it's unique to that estimate. So when I think about base bid and alternates, buildings, floors, rooms, plan page IDs, details, construction phases, all sorts of different ways that people group data in their estimate presentations. Database are ones that can actually be set up on the database ahead of time so it already knows these values. And that's what we're looking at now. So a lot of the time when someone goes to do item takeoff or goes to do takeoff and sets up their default values, these are the ones they have to typically put in each time. The database ones, they may not. So that's why a lot of the time I like to go down farther in the list and just put those down somewhere else lower in the list. So in this case here, I'm going to say that I want my title to be Uniformat. And I'm just going to say L1 for level 1. And we said it was 1 character. And if I was telling it just during takeoff what it was, and it was just estimate specific, I'd use takeoff. If it was something that was on the item that somebody couldn't change, I could say item. So if I didn't want them to be able to change uniformat codes, most of the time I'll say things like detail, because that way I could set something up in the database, but I could still change it on an estimate by estimate basis if I want it to be something different. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just take this and copy it a couple times so that way I don't have to retype it. So I'm going to say uniformat level 1, 2, and 3. And we said this was a 2 character and that was a 5 character. So that basically has my value set up. So I'm going to hit OK here. Now, the next thing I want to take a look at doing is I want to basically bring these into my system so I don't have to type them all. So if this was something that I didn't have the information in Excel like I do, I could highlight one of my WBS codes, I could hit edit values, and I could hit add, and I could go in here and manually create what's the value, what's the description, and populate this list with some content. So if I go ahead and said something like, whatever the value is, whatever the title is, that would actually then give me a list later when I'm doing estimating that I could pull up for that particular level. Now, in this case, since I do have them built in Excel already, I'm going to go ahead and export what I've got here out so it creates me an Excel spreadsheet in the format that I need to import those in. Whoops, pay attention to where you're putting it though, because that don't look like it's a valid folder. So let's see if my desktop's better. Okay, so now if I take a look at, this is what it just exported out. So I got that little sample one value, and there's a description. The main thing why I put something in there is I wanted to kind of confirm, what each one of these columns was. So that way, maybe I didn't know what value was or didn't know what description was. It would just kind of confirm, which ones I should be putting my content in. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and just take the information from this list here. Now, whether I kept the sample one there or not doesn't make any difference, because since the system would already find that it's already in the system, it wouldn't do anything with it anyway. So whether I kept it or got rid of it. So in this case here, I'm just going to save that Excel spreadsheet and close it so that way it's not in use. I'm going to come back to that same screen here. And just because I know this one doesn't follow the standard, I'm just going to go back and remove it, though I wouldn't have to. And I'm going to say I want to import. And it should default the same spreadsheet that it just exported here. So I'm going to just go ahead and say open. And that should turn around and import a handful of 8 different records in it, looks like. So let's see what we got. So there's the different level 1 uniformat codes in my WBS 30 uniformat value here. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, accept it. And I'm going to do the same thing with level 2. So I'm going to edit some values. I'm going to go ahead and export it to the desktop's fine. And close that down. I'm going to go find my spreadsheet. So there's a spreadsheet that I need to put everything into. There's a spreadsheet where I've got all my content already. So I'm going to say my level 2 list is going to look like that content there. Save it up, close it, and let's turn around and import it then. So there again, it should default the spreadsheet, so it's just doing a little different name for each different WBS code that I'm doing. So this one's apparently got about 32 rows. And if I take a look there, I've got all my list of different values in here. Except I messed up because I said that this was going to be 2 characters and I just jammed 3 in there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, change this to 3. And I'm going to turn around and bring it back in. Okay, that looks like everything's blue instead of red this time, so that looks like a good list. And we're going to do it one more time for the 3rd level. So that's creating me a spreadsheet to put content in. So I'm going to go over here and find my 3rd level then. And this looks like all my 3rd level stuff. Copy it to my spreadsheet. And now we're going to turn around and import that. So this is where that people that do like DOT work or something of that nature, where I work with multiple, somebody has a bunch of codes and values and so forth. Sometimes it's easier to, be able to import that list in instead of manually typing all the different values out sometimes. So that's basically brought in 129 that time. And there's my list of my level 3 values. So at this point then, that's got my WBS values set up. Each one is populated with some sort of a list. So that way, when we go to do takeoff, we're going to see this in a list. now I want to take that list and I actually want to set up a new sort. So when I go into my database, I can actually have a sort set up. So the default's going to be the master format, the way that group phase, and items show up now. But I'm also going to set up a sort called item sort here. And I'm going to set up a new one where I want it to sort the database by level 1, 2, and 3. So this is where I could give it a shorter name if I wanted to. I'm just going to leave it at that, so that way I can tell this is sorting first by level 1 and then 2 and then 3 and things of that nature. So that's going to go off and just re-index some of the database, so that way when we go do takeoff, we'll have the choice between how we want to view that in the list. So the next thing I want to take a look at then is we've already got a bunch of items in this database. So I want to go through and look at a couple different ways of how do I code those items to those values so I don't have to do it on estimate by estimate basis. So the best way is to use Database Editor, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But I also want to make sure that people realize, because you can add items from within estimating. So I want to first talk about where to do it from within estimating. So if I take a look at my list here, there it is in my CSI divisions that the database was currently organized in. If I were to right click and say sort as, there's my new one. Now, if I pick that one right now, it's just going to say unassigned all the way across the board, because at this point in time, I haven't coded anything to any value. So everything in the whole entire database is under one heading called unassigned. So it probably doesn't make sense to use that sort yet. So I'm going to go back to my phase and item. I'm going to come on down to supervision, and let's say that I want so on the right-hand side is a button here for WBS. And if you notice, these are the 3 new values that we just set up. So for a superintendent, where does the superintendent reside? So this is where I can go through there and pick different values associated with where the information is going to be sorted and so forth. So in my case, I'm going to kind of start at the bottom and work my way up a little bit. So is there something in here that looks like I'm just going to say administrative. So then that'll kind of help feed the rest of these. So now that I know it's a Z10, I can come down here a little bit easier and pick a Z10 now that I know my dinner one. So I'm going to say general requirements, and that makes this going to be a Z. So it's a little bit easier to pick from the start there. So that way I've got that one item coded. So if I were to go ahead and pull up a list again and actually look at my database in unit format order again, I'll see that I've got one heading for general now and unassigned. So everything else in the entire database except for this one item is all under that unassigned. But under this one heading, there's where that superintendent shows up. So that way, when I'm doing takeoff, I can estimate in either master or unit format, and then we'll take a look at the same thing once we build a spreadsheet. So the next thing I want to take a look at is jumping into Database Editor, where we can actually flag these items a little bit faster than doing it one piddly item at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize estimating here and go find my estimating. Whoops, it's probably down here at the bottom on the toolbar. And if you've never used Database Editor before, typically it would be in your Start menu, and there's a separate section for all the estimating apps. And under the estimating apps is something called Database Editor, is another way that you could actually get there if you didn't already have it pinned to your desktop. And I'm pretty much done with that spreadsheet. So I want to open a database. I'm going to check this database out so I can make modifications to it. Since I've got accounting on this machine, it's trying to figure out my credentials to know whether it's allowed to show me job cost content or not. So I'm going to go ahead and log in for it. So you may or may not see that message on yours. So then here's that database that we're just looking at. And if I look at superintendent right here, and we're to take that over to the far right-hand side of the list, you'll notice that it's got all my different codes already in there for at least that one piddly item. So that way I could tell that this is what general conditions and each one of the different values. So this is where I could go in here and actually code what items go to what values. So if I said that there was a lot of this content that was going to be administrative, and most of the time when you're doing this, it makes sense to go through and actually hide all these columns. So if you hit all these columns, so that way you could just look at the description and those values by themselves is a heck of a lot easier than working with it sometimes, because there's a lot of columns to this spreadsheet. In my case, I'm going to move them a little bit closer so I don't have to scroll as far. And might as well cut all this dead space out in editing. Well, I guess I couldn't because I didn't have the column set up. Okay, so now that I've got them a little bit closer with each other, I can see here's the master format phase, an item that's currently my group phase and phase of how the database is set up. So, here's my group phases, my items. So we looked at just a moment ago, supervision. So that way it brings me down to this particular phase, this particular item, and then here's the master format information that I gave to it. So if I said that all these other items by each other was associated with that same administrative type of heading, this is why Database Editor is so much more powerful, because I could actually click and hold many items and do the fill down. So basically I clicked on the first one that had the value I wanted. In that case, I clicked and held to come on down through. Once I get done, I can right click on it and say fill down. Or I might click once on the first one, hold my shift key down and click on the last one in the list. There again, just another way of blocking out many things and do a fill down. So that's basically how you can see how to go back through and put these on all your different database items. So I'm going to go through here. So that way in our next session, when we start talking about doing an estimate, I'm going to go through here and code out a few more for my a footing and a slab and a wall and a couple of those type of things. So that way when we hit our next session on utilizing, we'll have something in there that we can utilize. So all I'm really going to do is just go down through there and find items to do with my footing, and I'm going to code those to the appropriate bed items and so forth. So let's go ahead and do maybe a couple other ones here just for practice. So let's say that I've got 22 is my excavation window. So let's say that I've got 2220.200. So maybe here's my footing excavation. So content to do with my footing might associate with, I'm going to just say a standard foundation. So I'm going to say that's A10. So the first one's going to be A10. And A1010. And because these next couple items associate with the footing, I'm just going to go ahead and do all of those depending on, so that way if I'm doing a form footing or not, it'll have it. Now in these cells, you can do the drop-down box and see a list. The only drawback I have is I can't see the descriptions of these items. So that's why you see me kind of pulling up my Excel spreadsheet to find it in the list and things of that nature. So let's say that my slab's going to use some of this fine grade. So I might come over to there and say that a slab is associated with, let's say 4010. So A 4010. Is that still A? Yes. So it'd be associated with A40, and it's going to be associated with A. And pretty much So that's the monotonous task of going through there and coding out your different items. So I'm going to go ahead and break off here and finish mine up so that way we have content. And once I get done here, we'll start up a new session for the utilizing of this information.